We're already at the second lowest level of silver in the 140-year history of the LBMA, and there's only roughly 60 million ounces registered on COMEX. There's not enough silver to go around, and by the admission of the LBMA that they're trading upwards ends of 2.9 billion ounces of silver per day, which is 3.5 times global mine supply. It's, to me, interesting when you realize, A, that leading up to that, the commercial banks had massive short positions on silver, some of the biggest I've ever seen. B, that they show up at the Shanghai Exchange where the only thing you can export is silver, and C, right at the same time we see all of this drawdown off of the Shanghai Exchange. You have 4 weeks in a row these big short bullion banks show up there. What was discussed, who knows? But I will tell you that it was pretty obvious that we were going to see some sort of a pullback, I guess. Either that or the commercial banks would have been run over because their short positions kept growing and growing and growing leading into this last pullback. Now, what that means to me is that they had enough silver to deliver those people who were standing for delivery, but it's as if obviously when they were record short and then there's a drawdown, what is happening is that the commercial banks are taking the other side of the trades that the bullion banks, or that the hedge funds rather, are putting on, which would mean the hedge funds are going short and selling longs to the commercial banks who are covering shorts and taking those long trades the other side. That's why one of these days the commercial banks will have hoodwinked the managed money into going short. They have taken the other side and go long, and they let it run, because to continue to try and naked short this market is insanity. There is not enough physical silver to deliver. And what differentiates this market over markets in the past is the amount of deliveries, where these markets never really were designed to deliver product, that they have to allow it to maintain the illusion of legitimacy. But these countries that are standing for delivery, like India, who bought more silver in the first 4 months of the year than they did of all of last year. Well, they're standing for delivery. India bought more gold, 1.5 times the amount of gold that they bought all of last year in the first 4 months, and then repatriated 100 metric tons from the Bank of England. The concept of counterparty risk is becoming pervasive, and I think these countries who were never sophisticated, wealthy, or coordinated enough to drain the exchanges now are. And they realize that's how they win this battle against the West, is not to fight them with sticks and stones, but to damage really the bullion banks, which are the commercial banks, the ones that have these too big to fail massive balance sheets, by standing for delivery in a massively overly rehypothecated environment where in the game, when the game was originally started, and most of my career, 1% or less of these contracts stood for delivery. And now you're seeing large delivery requests bleeding down the exchanges. And I'd pay close attention to the Shanghai Exchange, because if it keeps bleeding down, where are they going to get the supply to stand for delivery next time? Because we're already at the second lowest level of silver in the 140-year history of the LBMA. And there's only roughly 60 million ounces registered on COMEX. There's not enough silver to go around. And by the admission of the LBMA that they're trading upwards ends of 2.9 billion ounces of silver per day, which is 3.5 times global mine supply per day, it's a silly, silly game in an environment where countries are requesting deliveries. So yeah, this is more and more compelling argument that we're getting close to seeing the end of the ability of these banks to naked short. You can only suppress a market or manipulate one over an extended period of time by pushing in the direction that it is going. And when you have all of these countries intent on accumulating commodities, a la Zoltan Pozsar, and Bretton Woods 3, a system about he who has the commodities makes the rules. I think that is also true with silver. And when you look at silver being the most largest concentrated short position by a handful of banks of any commodity traded, it just coils the spring that much more and gives the potential that this could blow up in a very bad way and bring down some of these very large, too big to fail banks. And what does that do to the whole system? That's why when guys like Bix Weirs used to say that silver is the Achilles heel of the whole system, I never quite understood it. Gold's share of global international reserves just jumped to 18% in 2023. That's the most in 27 years. And it's now also the second largest asset held in global central bank reserves, exceeding the euro for the first time ever. The US dollar is at 48%, but down from 60% in 2017. And at the same time, the central banks in Q1 2024 bought more gold than ever before. So when you talk about this stuff, they're selling treasuries, they're buying gold, and they're being incentivized to do so. And you know, it's one of these deals where now the official world gold reserves are higher than just before Nixon closed the gold window. I mean, it's almost as if they are thinking we are heading towards a gold standard, which would make sense. And to give you an idea of how fast things can change, right? The Bank of Japan, and this is the last thing I have to talk about, I think. There might be a few other things to talk about. Actually, there is. I got a few more minutes. So a couple things. I got a few more to talk about. So the Bank of Japan spent between April 29th and May 1st, in just a few days, the Bank of Japan spent $68 billion to give the illusion that the yen was not collapsing. And this is one of the reasons they keep the price of gold down, because they don't want, you know, them to rush to the fact that the yen or any of these Western G7 currencies are in trouble. But in the last 6 months, an ounce of gold in Japan, because of all this money printing, has gone from 290,000 yen in December of 2023 to 361,000 yen in June of 2024. 71,000 yen more to buy 1 ounce of gold. And this is what happens when you start printing money to buy the debt. That's monetization. And on a price increase, you're talking 30% gain in a very short period of time. This is how fast things can move in a depreciating currency environment. Let's see, anything else? You know, one of the things that I find completely stupid is that the Western media is claiming that the PBOC has stopped buying gold, and this is why gold has fallen. It's just ridiculous. First of all these forever people have been saying you can't believe the numbers that China puts out. The analyst from the Bank of Montreal just said that a few weeks ago. Can't believe the numbers. They're way understated. The IMF has said they're way understated. Alistair McLeod, one of the smartest men in the world, says they have 38,000 metric tons, yet they tell us they only have about 2,500 metric tons. Who's telling the truth? Who isn't? So when you talk about premature conclusions, how can anyone say just because of one report saying unchanged monthly holdings that China is not buying gold anymore because it's too expensive? It's total bullshit. And I would say that they're not going to tell us how much they're buying. And even if the numbers that we have been seeing for 19 straight months, if they have been buying, they've probably been buying a whole hell of a lot more than they tell us through sovereign wealth funds and less transparent, much more opaque ways of bringing gold into the country. At the same time, they're the largest producers in the world, and they've been producing gold at uneconomic levels using our trade imbalance forever. So for people to say 1 month's unchanged numbers, they're done buying gold, this is why the price fell, is as stupid as anything I've ever seen in the Western media and their stupid rhetoric trying to throw people off the scent. Look, you have 4 or 5 companies that control all the media. It's a bunch of bullshit.